What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Gas Powered Bike page. Alright, today we are going to replace a chain. So I thought I would make a helpful video for those who have never replaced their chain or installed a chain. I'm going to try and do a step-by-step on how to replace your chain. So what we will do first is remove the chain guard. This one has a set screw in the back. And then we will remove, I do not know if you can see it or not, it's kind of dark. There is a nut right behind the chain guard underneath the carburetor we have to remove, and that will get rid of the chain guard out of our way. Now that we have the chain guard removed, we are going to move on to loosening our cable lock for our clutch lever. I personally use vice grips or pliers to hold it. It's just easier that way, and if the screwdriver slips, you don't poke yourself, so that's the method I use. We're going to loosen the set screw and slide that little guy off there and get it out of the way. Now that I have my cable lock removed, just undo the set screw and slide it off your cable. We'll slide this out of the way. It just slides in the hole there of the clutch arm. Now we will take our Allen head or hex head, whatever's politically correct these days. I'm still an Allen head kind of guy. And remove these 3 screws, which remove this cover and gives us access to our drive gear, so we can feed the chain through there. Some of them have Phillips screws. This one happens to have hex head or Allen head screws. So let's remove that cover. Now that we have the panel with the throwout lever gone for our clutch, as you can see, we have full access to our drive gear. Now, you don't have to necessarily remove the spark plug. That is my personal next step. It allows me to spin the engine over freely. But like I say, you don't have to. You can fight it if you want. Turn the gear in a clockwise position. If not, you'll back off the nut. Sometimes with the spark plug in it because of the compression, and you have to force it a little bit, which I will demonstrate now to you so you can make your decision if you want to fight it or take the plug out. But right now, see, it's tough to turn because of the compression. So let me remove the spark plug, and then I'll show you without the spark plug how it works, and you can make your own decision on this part. With the spark plug removed and your 19mm socket, notice that the motor turns super free, so it'll be really easy to walk the chain through there and take my wrench and feed it through. Okay, now we're to the part of crawling out the new chain and getting it fed through there. I have the old chain, it just has high miles on it. I don't trust it for the customer, so we're going to install a brand new chain. If you're in a pinch and you have to put a chain together or use your old chain, I completely understand. But if you've had any chain problems at all, like this one, it popped off on him. I don't believe he kept up very much on the chain adjustment. You don't have to do it a lot, but you do have to do it from time to time. There's no getting around it if you don't want chain problems. It's a good idea to keep your eye on that. If it gets too much slack, it can jump off just like a regular bicycle. I noticed this one has some scratches on the outside of the sprocket, so that must be the side that it popped off on him on. He didn't mention it, just said it needed a new chain put on there and wanted me to put a new chain on, so that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm making this video, to help others that have never installed a chain All right, so let me get my chain sprawled out and we will get to that step. Now that we have our chain unboxed and out of the sack, we have to flip it around and find the master link. And the master link looks just like that. Sometimes they're hard to find, so you have to go around it a couple times, but you'll find it. That's how the chain is put together. That's how it's joined together at the ends. Now I personally use a small pair of channel locks to pop the master link apart. Sometimes they're a bit tricky, but the object is to hold that center pin, just catch the end of the slide keeper, if you will, and pop it back. Just like so. And then you can generally wiggle it back. This one's tight and new. Doesn't want to wiggle back, but we didn't ask it if it wanted to wiggle back. There we go. Move that link out of the way. And I think she'll finish coming off there. Little sucker fought every step of the way, but we got it. We'll wiggle the chain, get this side off. This dude's just going to fight every step of the way, but I'm kind of glad it is. That way, when someone at home is having some issues, they don't feel all alone. Oh, now it just pops off. Okay, now we have our chain separated, and we can go over to the bike and feed it through. Alright, now you can do this one of two ways. Now that you have the spark plug removed from the engine and the engine spins freely, you can pretty much go whatever way you want, because you're not putting any torque on that nut and it won't unscrew it on you and give you a surprise later. So you can choose how you want to do it. I am personally going to take this over the top. Make sure I feed it through. My fender. Watch your fingers and be careful so you don't get pinched. And you can feed that through there. You'll have to hold it against the sprocket with the tip of your finger, because if that gets slack in it, it'll bind on you, so you got to hold it there and feed it on through. And now you get a little bit, you can generally pull it. Okay, now we have our chain fed through there. Now our next step is see if we need to shorten our chain. Some bikes you do, some you do not. That all depends on what style of bike you have, what size your sprocket is. There's a lot of variables for that, so we won't get into that. This one I'm going to check and see if it needs shortened. Alright, in this step I will put that over the idler pulley, Before I forget, I always loosen that and take it down and just up just a little bit, because generally in their design the pulley will go down far enough to touch the head of this mounting bolt, and that makes it not turn. So I want that there. I spin it a little bit, make sure it still turns freely, and I don't have to tighten it, but I will snug it to make sure that it doesn't slide down on me in the process of measuring my chain here, because I don't want a surprise of cutting the chain or shortening the chain, however you want to refer to it, and find out that it was exact right there and give myself a problem because that's down too far. Now I've shortened the chain and created myself a problem. So that's why I do it that way. Now what I will personally do, I will put that over the idler pulley. Must rotate your tire back a little bit to keep a little tension on my chain so I get an accurate measurement. As you can see, this chain is way too long for this particular bike. So that is the length I need. So I will mark it, because after I let go, and if I don't mark it, then all those links look alike and I could shorten it too much or not enough. I have obviously removed the chain from the bike, mainly for this video. You can, if you have the chain breaker tool, do it still on the bike, but for this video, that way I can explain it a little better, I have removed the chain to the bench here. Okay, I personally have a chain breaker tool that clamps on there and drives that pin out for you. If you're not fortunate enough to have one and don't have access to one, it is possible to do it this way. It's easy if you get you a piece of wood and drill a hole in it. That way when you drive the pin out, it has somewhere to go. It is a suggested practice if you have access to a die grinder or a little grinder of any magnitude to grind that head off of there, because it will help you drive the pin out. And then you can use a punch that is smaller than the pin you're driving out and drive it through that way. Just an FYI for those that don't have access to a chain breaker tool. But the chain breaker tool mounts right here on the link you want to remove. I take my wrench and press it right out of the chain. Before I get any further in the removing of the pin for the chain, I did want to take a second, and for those who have never done this before, try to explain this the best I can to you, because if you do your chain incorrectly, it could mess up your distance and make your chain not work anymore if you do the wrong link, because you can do the wrong link. Alright, as you see, this chain, both ends are the same, so you can, after you shorten your chain, you put your master link back in and you build your chain. Now we're back together how the chain's supposed to be. If you do it incorrectly and take a link out that is not housing the roller bearing, which is more of the hinge side, as you see, when you press that pin out, you have no roller bearing. So there is the problem. No roller bearing in that link, and a roller bearing in that link just doesn't work. So when you're selecting a link, even though when you put them together on the bike or whatever it is you're doing with the chain, and this would be perfect if you could take the correct link out as of such. So sometimes you have to give yourself an extra length and take up the slack however else you can, which is generally with the idler if necessary, to make your chain work. But when you're looking at the chain, you're like, how do I know if I'm taking the right link out? As you can see, when I wiggle that chain, this link is solid, so I know this is the hinge link. So I know I can remove the pin from the solid link. If I move up just one link of the chain, now I'm to this end of the link, which is the hinge link, and if I break it there, then I end up with a bad chain that I can't use. I know it's a little tidbit confusing, but I just thought I'd throw the FYI out there, so at least if you didn't know, at least you could make an effort and hopefully not damage your new chain and get your repairs done. Alrighty then, as you can see, I removed that wheel so we could get a better view for you folks at home. Alright, we wanted to put our chain together. This is how it goes together. The master link pokes through from the back side and slides completely through. Then we put our side on, cover, side, whatever you want to refer to it as. Okay, now this little part is important. It's tricky, so be careful this doesn't wing off and shoot on you. It will do that because it is a spring clip. But you want the shark and the shark mouth, I refer to it as the shark and the shark mouth, to always be riding backwards on the roller coaster. What I mean by that is, if you put the mouth going with the chain, there's a chance it may touch a sprocket or your idler pulley someday and pop that little guy off. And then this falls apart, your chain falls in the middle of the street and or breaks. Either way, you're stranded over just that little tidbit of an error. So you always want to put the shark mouth backwards on the roller coaster. That way he's riding this way, even if it touches the plastic idler pulley or whatever pulley system you have. Even if it touches it, it's always installing it, always trying to put it on instead of knock it off. So that is just a friendly little FYI. Okay, so I will get my miniature channel locks and I will pop that on there, and that should be that for the chain. And then I will reinstall the pulley for the chain tensioner, and this bike should be ready to go. Alright then, I have my master link clipped together. I've reinstalled my pulley and tightened it up. Don't forget that, that is important. My chain is snug. It looks really tight, but it has a 1/4 inch of play. Now, being as it is a brand new chain, it's going to stretch a little bit. So I personally give them about a 1/4 inch of play. It's stout, but it's not deathly tight like a guitar string, because after a few miles of riding, it's going to relax a little bit and be right on the money. And yeah, you should be able to keep right on riding and not have to adjust your chain 2 and 3 times. All right, well, let me get my clutch cover back on, my cable hook back up, and we'll give this a few freewheels just to make sure that it's happy as a clam. And as you can see, my clip is slid on there, and when the bike is operating, I was just spinning it backwards, but when it's operating, as you can see, The little shark mouth is going backwards on the roller coaster, and when he goes over the pulley, there's no chance of him getting knocked off and leaving you for stranded. Okay, I have my clutch door panel, whatever you want to refer to it, clutch throwout lever section, whatever, installed and tightened up. I have replaced my spark plug, put my CDI boot back on so she'll run. I have my spring and my cable put through my throwout lever. I have my cable lock slid up. And now, just for a friendly FYI, when setting your clutch cable tension, make sure you do not have the handle locked, because that gives you a way misaccurate tension when you set the cable lock and have that, because when you release that, there's your problem, the slack, and when you pull it, you're not moving anything. So make darn sure your lever is not locked, your cable is firm. I personally pull the cable taut or tight, whatever fancy word you like to use, to make sure it is all seated in there, everything's snug. Now this is how I personally do it. Be ginger with the vice grips, but I put them lightly on the cable so I have something to pull, because it's hard to pull a slick cable. And see, I need to get rid of that slack. So I personally use the vice grips, lightly clamp it on my cable, because in case I ever have to remove my cable, I don't want it damaged. Yep, right there. Just take the slack out of it. You don't have to put any pressure on it or anything like that. Slide your cable lock up to stop. Make sure I don't have any slack. See, I don't have any slack. It's all tight. I don't have pressure on it once again, but it's tight. And I will set the screw. I can do that without applying a lot of pressure. It won't move on you as long as you don't pull it just yet, or squeeze the lever, I should say. I'll reset my vice grips to hold my cable lock for me so I don't slip and poke myself. And now I will tighten that the rest of the way. Remove my vice grips, and that should have it. No slack, and it should operate 100%. Okay, now I just have to install my chain guard, and we'll give it a spin and see how it works. We have finally reached the end of our repair. Our spark plugs reinstalled. Our drive gear cover with the throwout lever are installed. Chain guard is reinstalled and tightened up. Idler pulley for the chain tensioner is tightened up. So I've set our clutch handle. Give it a few spins to make sure she's still all right and nothing's touching, binding, or you can hear any grinding or sounds out of the ordinary. All right, that should conclude our chain replacement repair, and good for another 100,000 miles. All right, well, thanks for watching. I hope this video helped someone out that was trying to figure out how to deal with that chain replacement or installation or both, whatever your case was. All right, well, hopefully you like and subscribe to our channel for future repair how-to videos. And I'm getting out of here. See you next time.